And of course, that's why you should never stab a student on camera. Today would be Friday, December 6th. We'll go ahead and continue with our outsiders. You have homework that'll come due a week from yesterday. Next Thursday, we'll have the We'll have a quiz coming up on Tuesday. There, so it covers up through page 68 or 67, or however you want to look at it, through the book, which is the end of chapter 4. Let's see, so there, we'll clear up the desk, the outsiders time. With this part, I'm curious to see what connections you guys have made so far. As an example, let's see, I think if I made some connections I can give you examples of. Like on page 7, at the very bottom of it, they're going through and introducing people. It says, Soda is handsomer than anyone else I know. I circled that, and out to the side I put down to myself, because it seemed to make a really good connection and then connected to me. On the left-hand side, once again, it says, talking about his dad. My father was only 40 when he died, and he looked 25. A lot of people thought that Derry and Dad were brothers. Once again, I circled that and put myself out to the side, because apparently, it's not for me, but apparently other teachers say I haven't aged since I started teaching, like 15 years. But I do look the exact same. They flip back to all my little pictures, and the fact that I don't look any different. I figure it's the same thing. The fact that I've been accused of being a vampire because apparently eating children's souls keeps you young. The souls are delicious. That's why you know about them. And then at the top of page 6, it was like where it said, "Shut him up for Pete's sake." I circled that one because it reminded me of kid 6th period, Petey. Because the whole Pete and Petey and the fact that she doesn't talk, but anyway, connections. So those are some of the ones that I came up with. I'm curious to see if you guys have had connections so far, things you've highlighted. Gabby?
It said like that.
What page?
Page 3.
Page 3.
It said that like, them and their friends, his brothers and their friends have grown up and like consider them family.
Yes.
And my neighbors, I lived like by them for 9 years, and they're basically like my sisters.
Even though they don't actually share blood.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Tang?
When it's on page 6, and
Page 6.
He looks older than 20, tough, cool, and smart. Well, I kind of connected it to Mr. Malton because Mr. Malton looks really tough.
I could dig that. Yeah. I would definitely not call him untough to his face. I'd agree. Keegan?
On page 9, the 3rd paragraph, the specialty with cars. One of my neighbors, he's not my friend, obviously, because he's not a hero. He is not a hero.
So you deserve to be a friend. Understood?
So he's really, really interested in cars, and he's even bought like 80-mile cars. And if you saw his bedroom, it's like cars.
There you go.
He even has one of those little kid car-shaped beds, except it's bigger.
Sounds adorable. McScribbles?
On page 10,
Page 10.
it says that he was always smarting off the cops. I put Zach because Zach likes to get smart off the teachers.
He does.
That's a good one.
I see the connection there. Alright. Hopefully that does not continue to being arrested, but we'll see what happens. Whitney?
On page 3, it says Soda just can't sit still long enough to enjoy a movie anymore. Reminds me of my little sister when we go to see any movie.
I've seen her, the one that comes to the movie nights at the, I saw her, she ran around there too, being a chaperone. I would agree with that, she had issues. Vaughn?
For Darius, 6'2", broad-shouldered and muscular.
Did you put me again?
No, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
But there's this kid on the clay basketball team. Yeah.
Was he a big kid?
They really ended up like 6'6".
No, he was like 6.
I should have gone.
No,
he's
only
6'2", don't even lie.
No, he's 6'2".
Dang.
John Michaels is 6'6".
Another one on page 4 when it says good grades and high IQ and everything, but I don't use my head. I connected it to me because I feel like I'm an error.
Did you get good grades or the advanced class, which are kind of
Well, you
special?
get good grades.
I can see what it is. Nicely done.
Yeah.
We'll go ahead and pick up on page 10 and try to get as far as we can through this whole thing. All right. Page 10, where it says I had to pick the real character of the game. Listen, I got past picture.
We're on page 11.
No, we're not.
No, we're not.
What page are we on? Page 10.
I don't know. I said it was page 6.
It said page 11.
There we go.
Page 10.
Whatever.
If I had to pick the real character of the game, it'd be Dallas Winston. Dally. Oh, I used to like to draw his picture when he was in a dangerous mood, for then I could get his personality down in a few lines. He had an elfish face with high cheekbones and a pointed chin, small, sharp animal teeth, and ears like a lynx. His hair was almost white, it was so blonde, and he didn't like haircuts or hair oil. Sorry, hiccups. Or hair oil either, so it fell over his forehead in wisps and kicked out in the back in tufts and curled behind his ears and along the nape of his neck. His eyes were blue, blazing ice, cold with the hatred of the whole world. Dally had spent 3 years on the wild side of New York and been arrested at the age of 10. He was tougher than the rest of us, tougher, colder, meaner. The shade of difference that separates a greaser from a hood wasn't present in Dally. He was as wild as the boys in the downtown outfits, like Tim Shepard's gang. In New York, Dally blew off steam in gang fights, but here, organized gangs are rarities. They're just small bunches of friends who stick together. The warfare is between the social classes. A rumble, when it's called, is usually born of a grudge fight, and the opponents just happen to bring their friends along. No, I mean, there are a few name gangs around, like the River Kings and the Tiber Street Tigers, but here in the Southwest, there's no gang rivalry, so Dally, even though he could get into a good fight sometimes, had no specific thing to hate, no rival gang, only socias. And you can't win against them, no matter how hard you try, because they've got all the breaks, and even whipping them isn't going to change that fact. Maybe that's why Dallas was so bitter. He had quite a reputation. They have a file on him down at the police station. He'd been arrested, he got drunk, he rode in rodeos, lied, cheated, stole, rolled drunks, jumped small kids. He did everything. I didn't like him, but he was smart, and you had to respect him. Real quick, with Dally and his many issues, they talk about the fact that he does jump people. And who does he jump?
Kids.
Yeah, he jumps little kids. And his fun thing is to get his friends together and go beat up little kids because Dally has issues. It also says that he rolls drunks. When you roll a drunk, not an activity I think you guys should get into, but it's basically when you go to a party and you see someone who's had too much to drink and they pass out, you go over to them and roll them over, and then you pull their wallet out and take their money. And so it's called rolling a drunk. So basically you wait till they pass out, and then you roll them over and take their stuff while they're just like laying there on the ground. And they're going to talk about rolling drunks throughout the story. It's like one of the activities that you do. Chloe?
Are you allowed to connect people to your family?
Yeah, that's fine. As long as you know your family. Then you should be fine. Yeah.
No.
What if they meant like rolling drunks by like taking them to a hill?
Like cow tipping?
Yeah.
Like drunk tipping? No, but a good guess. Johnny Cade was last and least. If you can picture a little dark puppy that's been kicked too many times and is lost in a crowd of strangers, you'll have Johnny. He was the youngest next to me, smaller than the rest, with a slight build. He had big black eyes and a dark tanned face. His hair was jet black and heavily greased and combed to the side, but it was so long that it fell in shaggy bangs across his forehead. He had a nervous, suspicious look in his eyes, and that beating he got from the socials didn't help matters. He was the gang's pet, everyone's kid brother. His father was always beating him up, and his mother ignored him, except when she was hacked off at something. And then you could hear her yelling at him clear down at our house. I think he hated that worse than getting whipped. He would have run away 1,000,000 times if we hadn't been there. If it hadn't been for the gang, Johnny wouldn't even know what love and affection are. I wiped my eyes hurriedly. Did you catch him? Nope, they got away this time, the dirty. Chubit went on cheerfully, calling the socials every name he could think of or make up. The kid's okay? I'm okay. I tried to think of something to say. I'm usually pretty quiet around people, even the gang. I changed the subject. I know you were out of the cooler yet, Dally. Good behavior. Got off early. Guess what the cooler is?
Jail?
Yeah, jail. Dally lit a cigarette and handed it to Johnny. Everyone sat down to have a smoke and relax. A smoke always lessens the tension. I'd quit trembling and my color was back. The cigarette was calming me down. Two-Bit cocked an eyebrow. Nice looking bruise you got there, kid. I touched my cheek gingerly. Really? Two-Bit nodded sagely. It's a nice cut, too. It makes you look tough. Now, tough and tough are two different words. Tough is the same as rough, but tough means cool or sharp, like a tough-looking Mustang or a tough record. In our neighborhood, both are compliments. Steve flicked his ashes at me. What were you doing walking by your lonesome? Leave it to good old Steve to bring up something like that. I was coming home from the movies. I didn't think. You don't ever think, Derry broke in. Not at home or anywhere when it counts. You must think at school with all those good grades you bring home, and you've always got your nose in a book, but do you ever use your head for common sense? Pfft, no sirree, bub. If you did have to go by yourself, you should have carried a blade. I just stared at the hole in the top of my tennis shoe. Me and Derry just didn't dig each other. I never could please him. He would have hollered at me for carrying a blade if I had carried one. If I brought home B's, he wanted A's. And if I got A's, he wanted to make sure they stayed A's. If I was playing football, I should be in studying. And if I was reading, I should be out playing football. He never hollered at Soda Pop. Not even when Soda dropped out of school or got tickets for speeding. He just hollered at me. Soda was glaring at him. Hey, leave my kid brother alone, you hear? It ain't his fault he likes to go to the movies. It ain't his fault the socials like to jump us. And if he had been carrying a blade, it would have been a good excuse to cut him to ribbons. Soda always takes up for me. Derry said impatiently, when I want my kid brother to tell me what to do with my other kid brother, I'll ask you, kid brother. But he laid off of me. He always does when Soda Pop tells him to. Most of the time. Next time, get one of us to go with you, Pony Boy, Two-Bit said. Any of us will. Speaking of movies, Dally yawned, flipping away his cigarette butt. I'm walking over to the nightly double tomorrow night. Anybody want to come and hunt some action? Steve shook his head. Me and Soda are picking up Evie and Sandy for the game. He didn't need to look at me the way he did right then. I wasn't going to ask if I could come. I'd never tell Soda because he really likes Steve a lot. Sometimes I can't stand Steve Randall. And I mean it. Sometimes I hate him. Derry sighed, just like I knew he would. Derry never had time to do anything anymore. Now I'm working tomorrow night. Dally looked at the rest of us. How about y'all? Two-Bit, Johnny Cake, you and Pony want to come? Me and Johnny will come, I said. I knew Johnny wouldn't open his mouth unless he was forced to. That okay, Derry? Yeah, since it ain't a school night. Derry was real good about letting me go places on the weekends. But on school nights, I could hardly leave the house. I was planning on getting boozed up tomorrow night, Two-Bit said. If I don't, I'll walk over and find y'all. Steve was looking at Dally's hand. His ring, which he had rolled a drunk senior to get, was back on his finger. You break up with Sylvia again? Yeah, and this time it's for good. That little broad was two-timing me again while I was in jail. I thought of Sylvia and Evie and Sandy and Two-Bit's mini blondes. They were the only kind of girls that would look at us, I thought. Tough, loud girls who wore too much eye makeup and giggled and swore too much. I liked Soda's girl Sandy just fine, though. Her hair was natural blonde, and her laugh was soft like her china blue eyes. She didn't have a real good home or anything, and was our kind, greaser. But she was a real nice girl. Still, lots of times I wondered what other girls were like. The girls who were bright-eyed, had their dresses of decent length, and acted as if they'd like to spit on us if given a chance. Some were afraid of us. Remembering Dallas Winston, I didn't blame them. But most looked at us like we were dirt, gave us the same kind of look that the Socias did when they came by in their Mustangs and Corvairs and yelled, "Grease!" at us. I wondered about them. The girls, I mean. Did they cry when their boys were arrested, like Evie did when Steve got hauled in? Or they run out on them the way Sylvia did Dallas? Maybe their boys didn't get arrested or beaten up or busted up in rodeos. I was still thinking about it while I was doing my homework that night. I had to read Great Expectations for English. And that kid, Pip, he reminded me of us. The way he felt marked lousy because he wasn't a gentleman or anything. And the way that girl kept looking down on him. Well, that happened to me once. One time in biology, I had to dissect a worm, and the razor wouldn't cut, so I used my switchblade. The minute I flicked it out, AK jumped. I forgot what I was doing, or I would have never have done it. This girl right beside me kind of gasped and said, "They're right. You are a hood." That didn't make me feel so hot. There were a lot of socials in that class. I get put into A classes because I'm supposed to be smart, but most of them thought it was pretty funny. I didn't, though. She was a cute girl. She looked real good in yellow. We deserve a lot of our trouble, I thought. Dallas deserves everything he gets and should get worse if you want the truth. And Two-Bit, he doesn't really want or need half the things he swipes from stores. He just thinks it's fun to swipe everything that isn't nailed down. I can understand why Soda Pop and Steve get into drag races and fight so much, though. Both of them have too much energy. too much feeling, no way to blow it off, you're going to want to make a mark there. We're going to stop, because I got to talk about something before I let you guys take off. When you guys come into chapter 2, you're not going to have quite as many character descriptions. You'll have a few, because there are going to be a few more characters, but you're not going to have as many. So when you get into chapter 2, I'm looking for you guys to, and into chapter 3, more things that you have questions about, or things that you think would make a good discussion to bring up. And then what you find, we're going to talk about on Monday. So Monday, we're going to use what you find in chapter 2 and 3 as our discussion points. Real quick, there's things coming up that I'm going to go ahead and introduce to you now, so you know what they are when you see them. They're going to talk about Dally stealing a pack of Cools. Once again, if you don't know what this is, I'm okay with it. Patty? Close. Cigarettes. I am stealing a pack of cigarettes. And they're going to be hanging out at drive-in restaurants. If you've been like Dog and Suds, Rallies kind of, Rallies as you pull all the way through. These are the ones where you would stop and they have like little, and they bring food out to your car.
Like
Sonic?
Yeah, Sonic.
There's this one place in Anderson.
Jean's root beer
hot dog
stand.
place.
There you go.
Is no one
And so,
listening to me?
those were really popular during this time period. They talk about that and drive-in movie theaters because kids were getting cars for the first time. And so, if you've ever been to a drive-in movie theater, it's where you get to watch a movie outside and they have like these little poles that have a sound on them and you watch the movie. They're going to talk about that. And a lot of times down in this front area, they would have random seats that if you didn't want to sit in your car, you could go sit and watch the movie. And that's where they're going to talk about things happening at this movie theater. A gas jockey. They're going to talk about soda being a gas jockey, meaning that you're that used to go out and fill gas for people. So instead of like doing your own gas at the gas station, you honk your horn, and it was someone's job to come running out there and pump gas for you. And that was the job that he had, was a gas jockey. That's a blue Mustang. There's going to be some socials that cause more trouble. They're going to be driving a car like that. And they're going to make fun of some of the kids for having a Beatles haircut, which was back and be as popular again now, which is just like this shaggy mop of hair that sort of falls down over the front. Nick Scribbles has a decent Beatles haircut going for him. Nice to them.
Except his is curly.
It's a little too much. I'm sure if he wanted to straighten it, he could. Busted pop bottle. Like I mentioned before, the glass one, shatter it, gives you pointy edges, stab, stab. And they're going to talk about stabbing people with their busted pop bottles. And when you cut someone, it ends up looking like that. Well, it looks like you get attacked like a tiger because it has like these big uneven cuts that go across it. Snooker is like pool. They're going to talk about one of the characters playing snooker. So it's like billiards, pool, something like that. And then they're going to talk about there's this big scene coming up at a water fountain in a park. Not a water fountain like we have here with a glub, 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 but a water fountain where it has like this thing. They're going to talk about a kid getting in the water fountain. And the kid's like, how do you get in a water fountain? It's in the hallway. So they're talking about something like that, getting into this water fountain. Oh, and the last thing is jeans jacket. We're going to talk about Johnny wearing a jeans jacket. If you've never seen one, that's what it looks like.
I have one.
Your goal now, read to the end of page 68. Make sure you make your marks in chapters 2 and 3. Take off. Have a good weekend. So you want to start back on
Have a good weekend.
You want to hit it?
Wait, did you already push
No, I haven't hit it.